when it comes to informants, right, you have different types. So I'll break this down. You have source of information, right? That can be just a regular person that wants to come forward, maybe a good Samaritan, maybe someone that used to be a criminal, etc. SOI, source of information. Then you have a cooperating defendant, where they might either already have charges against them or they have charges that you can levy against them, cooperating defendant. Then you got confidential informant. This is someone that signed up, right? They have a CI number. They got when you write about them in reports, you're writing their CI number. You're never using their name, etc. They're documented. They're getting paid. They're getting some type of benefit, typically immigration benefits, maybe, etc. So whenever you have informants, you have to weigh their benefit versus the cost. No matter what anyone tells you, informants are a pain in the ass, because 9 out of 10 times the best informants are criminals. So therefore, that means that they're in the game, they're doing a bunch of bullshit, they might get arrested, and it comes down to how important is the case, who can they get you, and how much risk are you willing to weigh, because they could do some bullshit, right? And a lot of agents, actually, the best agents have informants, but most federal agents don't have informants because it's a headache and it's a lot of paperwork. And I'll be honest with you, most government employees in general are fucking lazy. I was one of the only crazy people that would have multiple signed up informants. I'd have SOIs, I'd have cooperating defenses, etc. And the importance of that is you need them telling you different things, because they'll be privy to different, especially when you're doing like organized crime or conspiracy cases, they'll be privy to different parts of the conspiracy. And also it helps you corroborate if your informant's telling you the truth. If he tells you XYZ does XYZ, and then the next guy tells you, yeah, XYZ does XYZ, it adds credibility to that informant. So, and then that information is better. I could take that to a judge. That's my probable cause. I get a warrant for a phone or a house, or whatever it may be. And more than one source is always better to, beef up your probable cause. A lot of agents don't like that because it's a lot of work. But when it comes to assessing, it really comes down to risk versus reward of, this guy's a fucking hothead, he's crazy, but is it worth it to do the case? A lot of the times, especially when you're dealing with like gang members or whatever, sometimes they could be violent criminals, and that just kind of comes into play. Obviously, you got ground rules for them. Hey, you ain't gonna fucking shoot nobody. You ain't gonna hurt nobody. You're not gonna be involved in anything. You're just gonna go to meetings and be a fly in the wall. But that's difficult to do when they're higher ranking or whatever it may be. That's why it's very important when you're getting informants, you got to get someone in the middle. And what I mean by that is, I give you a perfect example: the Tekashi 6ix9ine case, right? And I like to use this case as an example because it's famous and a lot of people know. So the top guy that they were going after was a dude, I think if I'm not mistaken, was Mel Murder, right? The head of the Bloods, 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods. But 6ix9ine was in a unique situation because he wasn't necessarily a gang member, so to speak, but he was a financier. And as a financier, you're dealing with the money. That means that you're talking to guys at the top level and guys on the lower level. So you're in a perfect position to give information on the guys below you and above you. And that's why he ended up cooperating with HSI and getting such a great deal, because he was able to get everybody, right? And that's typically who you want to turn. You want to turn to people that are dealing with the money and guys that are in the middle of the organization or closer to the top, because they can give you the guys above them and give you the guys below them. But sometimes that doesn't always play out that way. Luckily, you want to get someone that's not violent, that deals with the money a lot of times, because they're more privy to the criminal activity on all ends. But sometimes you might have to recruit the fucking enforcer, whose job is to whoop people's asses. I remember this when I had a Latin King case. One of my informants was an enforcer. I had to fucking constantly tell him, you can't beat people up, bro. You can't do this shit. You know what I mean? Hey, but he violation, you did XYZ. No, bro, no, you can't do it. Oh, fuck, man. And then on the side, they might tell one of their homies to go beat somebody up. I can't do it right now, Fed's watching. Right? They'll make up some excuse for why they can't do something. But, it's very, it's a pain in the ass. And it's a unique burden and pain in the ass that most people, will never experience, let alone people in law enforcement. So only the best investigators typically maintain informants because of that very reason. Anyone that is on the job will tell you that.
So a guy like Tekashi, what do you think about someone like him that gets such a sweet deal and then goes and gets arrested again? And will the feds protect him from that too, or is he done and over with?
So with him, he's what I call a cooperating defendant. So he probably didn't get a CI number. They obviously burned him because he testified in court, etc. So he didn't get a CI number. He was basically just working off charges and he probably got a proffer letter, etc. Which a proffer letter is where you're able to, provide information without being charged. You get sitting there with your attorney. AUSA is across from you, the federal prosecutor, the agent, the case agent, or a case agent, and you just give information without getting prosecuted for it, right? They call it king for a day, proper letter 5K, safety valve and drug cases, all the same shit basically. You could basically speak without being prosecuted for it. I know you know what that is.
No,
but for the
I
audience,
like the audience to know.
Yeah, for the audience. Ian knows a lot about this stuff, guys. By the way, we had a discussion beforehand. I'm just explaining for y'all.
I did a reverse proffer.
Yeah, you did it.
Where you go and you sit down with the AUSA and you hear what they have to say. Because I went to trial. Yeah.
Really?
Yep. So my lawyer arranged a reverse proffer. We went to the United States Attorney's Office, and in the room was IRS, FBI. Everyone there surrounded you at the table.
Each of the case agents for each agency.
Yep, and then the interns that were interning the summer at the prosecution's office.
Oh, shit.
And it was me and my attorney and my dad, and they tell you, they lay out the case. This is 3 months before they went to the grand jury.
Oh, okay. Basically, they gave you discovery beforehand.
A little bit, yeah. But at that point, the postal inspectors had just passed it off to the feds. But I tell people all the time, the feds don't arrest you until they have a bulletproof case.
Oh, yeah.
People don't realize that.
Yeah, dude, I could tell you myself. I mean, I didn't go to my AUSA. We didn't even step foot in the grand jury room to indict until they were ready to go to trial.
Yeah.
And just for the audience to understand, to get indicted, right? Just probable cause, guys. That's nothing. That's like a fucking cop arresting you on the side for a DUI, right? Or smelling some weed in your car. That's probable cause. The threshold is not that high. But at the federal level, they treat it like it's beyond a reasonable doubt. But by the time I'm going to grand jury to indict the guy, I'm stepping in there to testify, the AUSA, the information I've given them, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. They're ready to go to trial the next day.
Yeah.
That's how federal prosecutors work, which is in stark contrast to the state. The state, they don't give a fuck. They take every case that comes in. They might lose half. They might win half, because they're getting everything from a disorderly conduct, BS DUI, all the way up until capital murder, right? So they're taking everything. So a lot of times the ADAs, assistant district attorneys, don't have the capacity, the bandwidth, or the resources to take on every single case. But the feds, they have the, privilege of being, that's not good enough for us. We don't want it. They can decline cases. So only take the biggest, sexiest cases, and they're not going to come at you and indict unless most AUSAs, on average, carry about 15 cases in the country, average, versus the ADA might have 100, 200, 300, right? And most AUSA's offices are 95% plus prosecution rate victory, right? Where they're getting a guilty plea of some kind, or they're plea bargaining, or they're going to trial and winning, right? So they don't lose, and they pride themselves on not losing. And then on top of that, you got federal investigators who have way more time and resources to do a long-term investigation. They're using Title III, wiretap intercepts. They're using pen registers, trap and traces, phone pings, informants, sources, cooperating defendants. They have state resources because a lot of times they have task force officers that are assigned to the federal agencies that have both federal authority and state authority because they're deputized, right? The TFO, also known as TFOs. So the feds have a lot of resources. Then the other thing, they got time. They got fucking time. They can sit there and watch you for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years and then come back and indict you, right? That's how they got Diddy. People say, oh, well, a lot of these crimes happened in 2008. How'd they happen? How'd they do it? Well, they use RICO, racketeering. Now they're able to establish it as enterprise, and they're alleging, hey, well, these crimes have been continuing to happen all this time. That's how they get around the statute of limitations, right? And some states have RICO statutes as well, but the federal ones are, fucking bulletproof, right? Giuliani used them against the mafia in the 80s, and then ever since it's just been bad for organized crime. You asked me about Tekashi 6ix9ine, right?
Yes, Tekashi, yes.
Okay, and the question, if I'm not mistaken, was his position with protection, and then...
And if the feds will protect him in his new case now.
Okay, he got another case?
Yeah, I think it's a foreign country. He got arrested, or there's a warrant out for his arrest.
Okay.
So if they will want to save him because of his cooperation
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, oh yeah, because Dominican Republic, he slapped somebody, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that, yeah.
So here's the thing. Tekashi, I'm almost 99% sure he was not a documented informant, right? And that was actually the HSI New York office that did it. So I know for a fact they didn't sign him up more than likely. And the reason why is because he testified in court. You don't want to have an informant that's testifying in court. So he was more than likely, because they indicted him too. He was a cooperating defendant. So as a cooperating defendant, he's not going to get the same level of protection as like a paid informant. And then also, when you're a paid informant, you do dumb shit. Like 9 out of 10 times, they're just going to deactivate you. When I used to have informants that would like get arrested and shit, deactivate. You're a pain in the ass. I'm just going to deactivate you. Show up to the fucking jail. Hey, sign this paperwork, you're being deactivated, etc. Boom, done. So yeah, number one, they're not going to protect them. And then you talked about his thing was a cooperating defendant. And there was one other thing I was going to tell you. His situation with him. Why? Because you had said how he had gotten arrested or indicted, or were you referring to his Dominican Republic case?
I was referring to the new
DR
case
one,
he just
right?
got. Yeah.
Okay.
And how he like blew it. Like he got this sweet deal, and then he goes and blows it.
Yeah. He gets in trouble in the DR. Yeah. And then honestly, he also kind of blew it because what happened was a lot of people don't know this. Like so he got arrested, if I'm not mistaken, like November 18th, like 2018, right?
Sounds
and
right.
They had brought him in for questioning like a day or two before, saying they wanted to offer him protection, but then they ended up arresting him. A big reason why they kind of like did that shotgun arrest on him was because he was planning to go to like Mohegan Sun. He was going to come out here to Connecticut, and he was going to go gamble. But at the time, and the reason why they had went over to him is because like they were doing wiretaps on the top guy, Mel Murda. That's where that infamous phone call with Jim Jones came in, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're going to super violate him." Well, the rule is if you're on Title III intercepts, listening to the phone real time, and someone's life is threatened, you have a duty to notify that individual. So they went and told him, "Hey, look, your life's on the line." They obviously didn't tell him how they knew or who was threatening him. Your life's on the line, etc. We can offer you protection, blah, blah. He's like, "Nah, fuck that shit. I'm not going to go with the feds. Like, this is bad for my career. I'm not going to fuck with y'all." Obviously, this was before they brought him in and they arrested him and told him that, Shotty and all them were fucking his baby mama, and then he decided to cooperate. But at the time, that's like death for you as a rapper to your career. Like, nah, I'm not going to do that shit. So he's like, "Fuck that, I'm not going to go." And then they figure out that he was planning to go to the casinos. Well, that would be a nightmare to follow him to Connecticut, right? Because you have HSI New York running the case, but he's coming into Connecticut. Well, now you got to coordinate with the Connecticut HSI offices, New Haven and Hartford, to watch him. And I think Hartford covers that area. That's their area of responsibility, AOR. So now you got to coordinate with the tribal police too, because they're the ones that run that area. You're familiar with Eastern Connecticut, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be a nightmare where you have to do surveillance on this guy, notify all these different agencies. You don't want to do that because you already got a sensitive case going on where you're investigating a celebrity rapper and a fucking dangerous criminal organization out of New York City, right? And you're on wiretaps as well. So that's a pain in the ass because you need an agent in the wire room 24/7 monitoring it, and then you got to get surveillance units. So it's a pain in the ass to do it. So, and you got to watch him the whole time. And then on top of that, you're watching him. These people said they're going to violate him. Imagine a shootout happens at the casino, and you knew that it could potentially happen. It's a nightmare. So they're like, "Fuck that. We're just going to arrest this guy because that's a huge liability. You're going into another AOR. You got to watch him, and you're going on tribal ground. A shootout can happen. Someone gets shot or killed. They're going to come after you and be like, "What the fuck? Did you know? Yeah, we were on the wiretaps. We knew." That's a fucking nightmare.
They do that though. Like I saw it in the Brian Koberger case. The feds were trailing them all the way across America.
Yeah. But in that case though, the crime had been committed. And they weren't on wiretaps knowing that there was imminent danger where someone could potentially die. So if they have if they have knowledge that something can happen beforehand on a wiretap, they have a duty to like stop it. You know what I mean? So, or avoid it. But in that case with Koberger, like that's more historical. He committed the crime, they're following him, etc. They're getting a search warrant on his house. So that's a bit different. But like,
was that common for feds to pick that up?
No. And so normally with a crime like that, murder 9 out of 10 times falls under state jurisdiction, unless like it's committed in the commission of a federal crime. So let's say me and you rob a bank and my dumbass shoots somebody and kills him. Well, now we can get hit with the murder because it was during the commission of a bank robbery, which is historically almost always a federal crime because it's FDIC insured. FBI takes lead on that. Or me and you are part of the mafia and we're over here killing motherfuckers, right? Murder is considered a crime under racketeering. So that's when the feds come in. Or like you kidnap someone, take them interstate, then kill them after the fact. So there needs to be some type of federal, typically for feds to take a murder case, there needs to be some kind of nexus to a federal crime, right? You kill a federal agent like Jaime Zapata, rest in peace to him. They killed him in Mexico. He was a former, he was an HSI agent that got killed in Mexico in like 2012. So he was actually out of my home office out of Laredo. The Zetas killed him, right? That was a federal charge because they killed a federal agent and they used a machine gun. If I'm not mistaken, one of the guns traced back to Operation Fast and Furious, where the ATF let a bunch of guns walk into Mexico. Big fucking L. One of the biggest. ATF almost got disbanded after that, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, so typically that's how murder investigations fall under the jurisdiction of the feds, or a crime on the high seas, right, where someone's murdered on a boat.
Okay.
Then yeah, but the state 9 out of 10 times will take it. But the feds can come in and assist. So in the Koberger case, like they definitely came in and assisted, because now the guy's going interstate, you know, the state of because the crime occurred in Idaho, if I'm not mistaken, and he drove all the way to Pennsylvania. So you know the feds will come in and help with the surveillance, etc. But at the end of the day, the lead agency is going to be, in this case, was it the Idaho State Police or
Moscow was the lead? Moscow Police.
Moscow Police,
Yeah.
really?
I think so. Yeah, I think they started because he was being held in Moscow.
Okay.
And then they just switched it. He just got he won the change of venue.
Okay. Oh, so they're gonna move it somewhere else?
Somewhere else in Idaho, but I don't think it was
probably give him more fair trial.
Yeah, like Connecticut, if a murder happens, it would be like the state major crime squad or something.
Yeah.
but I
so
think Moscow.
because here's the thing. Like here in Connecticut, it's funny. Like we don't really have sheriff's deputies like that
I
here.
was talking to someone about that earlier.
It's not a thing here. It's like we just got state police and then the feds and then the local town police. But like you go to other places, they got sheriff counties off. Sheriff's office, etc. So if I'm not mistaken, I thought it was the because I think the local police had it, and then they transferred it to the Idaho State Police, or because that little town, I don't know if they have the capacity to deal with a murder like that.
Yeah.
So, but that happens often at the state level. You know, it really comes down to the ADA. Like in Texas, for example, because I spent quite a bit of time there. You got the local police, then you got the sheriff's offices, then you got like, you know, state police, DPS, special agents, then you got the Texas Rangers. So if it's like a big murder case, a lot of press or anything like that, Texas Rangers will come in and take it typically. So I wouldn't be surprised if like one of their big state agencies doesn't come in and take it. Like the school shooting that just happened in Georgia, GBI took that one right away. You know, the 14-year-old that out there, so. Yeah, the state typically the state like has mirrors of the federal system, but you know, whole other world.